Hey guys, starting a Japanese Pokemon card business is extremely difficult, and today I want to talk about that because pretty much everyone else thinks that starting an English Pokemon card business is really hard, and a Japanese card business is way easier. And there are many reasons why I think that a Japanese card business is just harder to do, and I'm gonna go over that today. But it all boils down to the main point that the the overall barrier to entry to sell Japanese cards is lower, and that is basically what everything else boils down to. Everyone thinks that that's the reason why it's easier, the low barrier to entry. You can get a supplier pretty much anywhere, hit someone up on any platform, and you can find a Japanese Pokemon card supplier. And if you can't find a supplier, you're doing something wrong, and it's not meant for you. You can pretty much find any. It's really easy to find a supplier, contrary to English cards where it's really difficult to find a supplier, and it's really hard to get a distributor where you can get product and then sell it. Now, I still think it's extremely difficult, and selling English cards has its own problems, but I believe that selling Japanese cards may be more difficult. And let's go over all the reasons today, because I know a lot of people want to start a Japanese card business because no one can get English supply. Even stores that have a distributors, some of them can't get English supply. So that's why starting a Japanese Pokemon card business is so attractive. And as someone who has been going through it, I want to tell you guys about why I think it's pretty damn difficult. Now first, let's go over with some just basic proof. Over there I have some Glory of Team Rocket boxes, and if we pan down, we also have some black and white boxes. Those are the two most recent sets, and basically they're sitting, and that's one of my biggest problems. And one thing to notice is you can see there's more white flares boxes than black bolt boxes. That's not because I ordered more white flare, it's because people buy more black bolt. And I just realized that now with the split, like two sets releasing at the same time, that some people will want a set of two, some people just want one, some people want, one of each, some people just want one set. So you can't really just order the same amount of everything, you gotta gauge. So that's one thing I learned, but that's just a side note. The main point is, for me, these sets are sitting, and that is because of selling. Now, when you actually get the product, because anyone can get a supplier, if you just put any effort into it, you can get a supplier. And when you're actually selling, where do you sell it? Now, the obvious answer would be anywhere. You can sell it on local marketplaces, which is the easiest, and which is what most people do. Because who really is going through the effort of building a website, generating growing a customer base, and generating traffic to the site to sell some Japanese boxes? Because if you're that dedicated, you're probably going to be trying to go after an English business. Now, that's not the case with everyone, but what I'm saying is most people don't have the skills or patience or the drive to build their own website to sell Japanese cards or any cards. They don't want to spend that because it takes a long time and it's difficult to do well, and you have to rank in searches and promote the site. There's so much nuance into that. So most people sell on local marketplaces. Now, what's the problem now? The problem is there's so much supply, because there's basically infinite supply, and the barrier of entry is so low because anyone can get a supplier. So if there's way too much supply, and anyone can get supply, so anyone can sell it, there's far more supply than demand. And then there's so much price competition because of that. Not only is there too much supply, there's too many people that have access to the supply, which just drastically pushes even further the price competition than you would have. Like, for example, if there was 3 guys that had access to Japanese cards, even if there was so much supply, they could still control it to a point where the price competition wouldn't be as much as there's 1,000 people with Japanese box. Because basically, you could literally, seriously, like anyone on Facebook Marketplace, you'll see them in these Japanese buy sell groups, and that means that at that point, all your customers are gone. Like, it's really difficult now because the pool of people on Facebook Marketplace are the pool of people that are actively trying to get a good deal. So they're going to be looking for the same suppliers as you. So then you have to target a different audience to sell. You need to build your own site and then promote that. And that's why I think it's really difficult, because a lot of people go into Japanese cards thinking, hey, as long as I get the supply, I'm good. But the problem is everyone has supply. So how are you going to make yourself stand out that people will buy from you? That's a big problem because it's pretty difficult. You'll see some people do it really well because their price is higher than others and people still buy from them. Now basically, if you're trying to sell on Facebook, the only real way you can compete is by having the lowest price. And the real only customers you have left is the people that are too lazy to import it from Japan. So you're going to do the hard work and then you're going to make the money. So they know it's possible, but they're too lazy. Because everyone else who's not lazy and knows it's possible is going to be doing it. And then those people will become your competition because they're trying to sell. Now here's the problem. Since everyone has access to supply and the demand is growing lower because everyone's getting directly from Japan, you need to beat on the price. But of course you can't beat the price from Japan because you're buying from those suppliers unless you have some secret connect. But if you're like me and everyone else in the world, you can't beat the price coming from Japan. So, and then that means you probably can't beat the other people in the market because y'all got it at the same price. So there comes a point where either everyone just keeps undercutting because they're worried about the supply sitting, that they just keep undercutting each other, and then eventually you reach a point where everyone's losing money, and maybe you're selling boxes, but everyone's losing money, or no one even buys the boxes because majority of people, because what I really noticed as a trend, I could be going insane, but from Battle Partners, every set release after that, the demand has just gone lower and lower. I've always been priced at the bottom of the market because that's the only way you can compete when selling on local marketplaces. But still, the demand gets smaller and smaller because I think as more people discover that and more people propagate how you can buy Japanese cards directly from Japan, there's gonna be less people that are trying to buy from you. At least from local from a marketplace like Facebook where people are trying to get good deals. I think it's still completely possible to run a really successful business that goes off a site because people on Google are not the same. It's completely different. It's a completely different audience, completely different customer base. Those are people like buying gifts. Those are new collectors. Those are people who just buy the first thing they see. That's a very viable way, but it's really difficult. Boils back to my point that selling Japanese cards is difficult. Now, other than the fact that selling is extremely difficult because your boxes will sit because you can't beat on the price and there's way too much supply, the other problem is actually importing it. When I imported Black Bolt and White Flare, there were so many problems. I paid like triple or double the shipping to get it expedited, shipped faster to get here because I thought, well, the reason why Gloria Team Rock is sat for me is because I didn't get it here fast enough because I paid for the slow shipping, and then all the buyers already bought their boxes, right? And I was like, if I can get it earlier, I can also get that hype release price, which means I'll make more, so I'll make back the shipping that I'm spending. But then you run into the problem that there's customs and they threw up some new regulations, whatever, and all that took like an extra week and a half for the boxes to arrive. So I paid extra for shipping, and then it got caught up in customs because it was such an expensive package. And then I got screwed because I ended up in the same spot because it took so long to arrive because customs, there's some problems with that. And you can't control that because there could at any point be a problem with customs and you can't call them. And, I mean, you can call them and you try to work it out, but you can't do anything about it. Like, you really can't prevent that from happening. You can do your best, but there's really no way completely preventing that. So there's so much external risk than just going down to the distributor that's 34, like within your country at least, where you don't deal with customs, tariffs, any of those fees, and any of that time delay. So that's huge discrepancy from Japanese and English that some people may not consider, especially if you're just starting out. You're importing like 10 boxes, you're not reaching that threshold where you're going to be affected by customs. But if you really want to do it on a large scale, you want to scale it to a real business, you're going to run into these problems, and you can't do it illegally. If you're trying to like under declare the value and package get lost and all, like no insurance, and you do it, if you try to do it the wrong way, you can't scale, because at a certain point you're gonna get caught, you're gonna do something wrong. So if you're trying to do things the right way, it gets difficult, especially with importing. And then the final part of it is that there's always pure risk with just wiring someone money to ship you the boxes, someone in Japan. Although most people there are trustworthy, there's still scammers pretending to be someone living in Japan. There's people living in Japan that will take your money, not ship you the boxes, and there's always horror stories. And like, it's very possible to get scammed because you're just sending the money. Like, who knows? That person just one day, even if it's a reputable person, one day they might just decide to never ship the boxes and just run away with the money. Like, you don't know. And I've been scammed before. Many people have been scammed before, so it's a real thing. And you can't just say I'll PayPal them every time, because they'll charge you 5 to 10% on top of the price, and that's basically your whole margin at that point, because some margins are razor thin, and some you might even lose money. So you got to make up for that with the margins on other boxes. So the margins aren't even huge. That's another problem. But you can't be paying 5-10% on top of what your competition is paying, because then how are you going to compete? So really the only real way I see success in selling Japanese cards is by creating your own site and building a brand. Now that probably seems obvious, but most people probably aren't thinking about it. They're thinking about just buying them and then flipping them, just like scalping. You buy from Walmart and just sell it to the first guy that you can find to buy on Facebook. But to really be successful, because the margins are so low, everyone has access to it, and there's so much supply because there's infinite prints. You need to build your own brand, and you need to offer some value. You gotta be able to ship it fast to those customers with tracking, insurance, and you gotta have top-notch customer service. You gotta have a nice site. You need something to stand out, and you have to have good pricing, find the right supplier, and who will want to work with you long term, and then you can probably get some discounts. And that's really the only way I see it working out, because I saw a guy in my area, he's been selling on Facebook Marketplace, Japanese box, every release, and he used to do really good. But as like the boom happened with English and more people looking into buying Japanese cards, I see like his business deteriorating, because it just doesn't work. If you're selling on Facebook, you're not building a business, you're just reselling. And it took me a couple years to learn that, obviously, because I've been doing that with like eBay, Facebook, and that's what I'm trying to shift. But at the end of the day, it's really difficult for the average person, but it's possible. You just gotta be able to take that extra step to stand out and really be dedicated in doing it. And you're gonna make mistakes, you gotta learn from them and be diligent. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you think Japanese Pokemon card business is harder or easier than English, let me know in the comments. And yeah, subscribe if you enjoyed or learned anything. And yeah, join the journey.